So what's this episode about? Well, I'll tell you what it's about. It's obviously the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, but we're diving into, and it is a deep dive into that well-held belief that I think generally we all have. It's I'm not good enough, and it's a thing that really bugs me. I know there's more into it and something below that belief. That's my belief about that belief. So come with me and find out. It is so deep in such a good way that I've had to split this podcast up into 2 parts because it just kept going on and on. And there's some lovely processes in the second part, but you need this foundation, this understanding of the first part to really get it. And you will. And there's a massive amount packed into this first part, and then, well, you'll get it. You'll just get it. But if when you think about it, I'm not good enough, we've all experienced that, haven't we? And now it's time to change. So do have a listen after this. Hey, for those of you who don't know what this podcast's about, well, it's all about obviously personal development. Unplugged, why unplugged? Well, what we're going to do is break down, deconstruct all the things that are made bloody difficult by a lot of people. They tell you what they're doing, but they don't tell you how they did it. And that's what we're going to do, break down what they do into the hows and make wonderful changes. There'll be things that are stopping you, and we'll be helping you find out why that's happening and how can you change that. Because when you do, dreams become reality, and you then become a dreamer of big dreams, creating the most wonderful, brightest, most exciting new reality you can ever find. Anyway, that's it. Who am I? I'm Paul Clough. I'm an NLP trainer, a master hypnotist, and do all sorts of things that'll blow your mind. Come and enjoy it with me.
Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hey, welcome back, my friends. It's Paul. And today, I want to talk about when does that old belief of ours, I'm not good enough, work for you? What? When does it work for me? Come on, Cloughie, what are you talking about? Well, what I'm saying is, it always works for you. And I know you're going to be going, what? Well, that's what my notes say. But I thought that too. And I used to come across this belief all the time. And then I started to question it. Now, let me explain a little bit more deeply to start off with, and then we'll get even more deeper. And there may even be a little bit of a process. I like to do processes within these podcasts now. Hope you enjoy them. Anyway, first of all, I have a pretty major problem with the belief I'm not good enough. Sometimes, but I find it rarely, but I do find it, that the belief that when someone says, I'm not good enough, that's the limiting, the negative belief that is behind a lot of their issues, or behind the issue that we're working with. But I did say rarely, didn't I? You see, what I tend to find is, if I ask another question, I find there's a belief just below that belief. It's more subtle. It's more specific. And when people talk to me about, oh, I'm not good enough, and they're sort of talking about the problem, and then we ask this one question, we go below the surface, and they go, oh, that makes so much more sense to me, Paul. Oh, I've got these memories suddenly coming back. I remember when people said that to me, or I remember an event that, and it's not the most traumatic event, but it would have been effective, traumatic of a kind, highly energized maybe, way back then. With the experience and the wisdom that you had back then, it would have affected you. Looking back at it now, you go, oh, I can see why I took that belief on. You see, my sort of view is, and we call it a core belief sometimes, or getting to the core. Well, if you can imagine the world, little old planet Earth, is the surface. And that's where a belief from its core has come out into your world and generalized itself. It's come from a specific content and context right at the core, and it's got infected, as it were. It's infected itself in different areas of your life as well as that main area. You can remember, you may remember this if you were around when I talked about it. If not, this is brand new and it's awesome. In NLP, there's a communication model. Just a model that just explains how we take on information that's on the outside. Event happens. We all see that event. Trouble is, if you ask people about that event, they will all tell you something different about it. It will not have the same description from everybody. We've all had that experience, haven't we? You see, what happens is the event happens and we've got a number of senses, certainly at least 5. Your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, your gustatory, and your olfactory. So it's sight, hearing, feeling, taste and smell. Okay? And some people say you've got other 6 senses and things like that, but let's just go with those 5 at the moment. And what we do, we have that event and we take it on through those senses. But if we took on the whole of that event with everything those senses could take in, we would go potty, because the information coming at you is massive, billions and millions and all sorts of stuff anyway. So what we have to do to make sense of what we're experiencing is we have to delete information coming at us that maybe we just don't understand. So we just don't, we take, our unconscious mind takes it away from us, because if we don't understand it, let's just delete it. You must have had that experience when people will talk to you and they go, did you see so-and-so? You go, no. Well, in a film, and you saw, no, I didn't see that bit. Didn't make sense to us. So we deleted it. Then we distort it. We distort the information coming at us to make sense of it. So many times you'll see something and you'll go, I know what that is. And the closer you get to it, you actually find something completely different. But we had to distort what we saw to make it sense, or to make sense, so we could try to understand it. And then we generalize. So we take the information we have and the information coming in and we generalize it in our world. And we do all of these, like filtering, these 3 types of filters on things like, or with, our experiences. So we're filtering, deleting, distorting and generalizing in accordance with our experiences of the world, our wisdom, our attitude, our beliefs, our values. And we come up and make this little internal representation which affects the way we feel, the way we behave. And that's what happens. Now, I think what happens in reverse is something happens to us, very specific. And our unconscious mind takes it on board and goes, oh, I didn't like that feeling. Then we're going to talk on the negative side of where this belief, I'm not good enough, comes from. And something happens and our belief, or our unconscious mind says, I didn't like that experience. I don't want you to go there again. So in order to protect you, I'm going to give you this belief that you're not good enough. I'm not good enough. And there's a little bit more to that, but I'll explain that in a minute, because we're talking about this generalizing thing. And we don't do this. When an opportunity like that comes again, a little bit further along in our life, we go, oh, no, I don't like that feeling. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm not good enough to do that. And that one single belief, along with that little emotion, because there's, when you think about I'm not good enough, don't you have that little negative feeling that goes along with it? You know the one. I know I have it. And therefore I step back, I shrink, I hide. I do something, I maybe give an excuse. Whatever it is, I do not step up to the plate and do that thing, because my unconscious mind says, it might be the same as last time, and we didn't like that feeling. And the feelings could be of guilt, shame, upset, unhappy, being looked at. That imposter syndrome, things like that. Those are those type of feelings. Now, that's awesome to an extent, because it would have worked the first time with the wisdom that we had. But what tends to happen, like if you go back to that analogy of little old planet Earth, right at its core, we have that one little experience where we create this belief because of this one little experience for other experiences like that. I'm not good enough. But then unconsciously we look at other events coming through and go, oh, that's a bit similar. A bit. Not the same, but it might. And I'm not going to do that because I'm not good enough. And over time, not just the one context, the one specific context where we took on this belief, but it begins to generalize, deleting the information around it, because to make sense of it, go, oh no, that's similar. That's like that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to distort what I'm got, because just in case. And so we see that whereas we might be feeling, say, guilty, ashamed, upset, imposter in one particular area of our life, we then find, like a snowball coming down a hill, it gets slightly bigger and bigger and starts to affect us in different areas of our lives, which is absolutely awesome. Generalization is absolutely awesome in reverse. I remember really, really distinctly that I worked with this young lady, and she had an issue over noise. Loud bangs, basically. She said she had a phobia of loud bangs. Now, whether it was phobia, whatever, fear, doesn't really matter. She did not like them, and it used to stop her doing things, because most places now have fireworks, loud bangs, things going off. And she said, I feel totally out of control. Now, we looked at different areas of her life where she felt different contexts where she also felt out of control with the same type of feeling. And there were different places in her life where she had that feeling of being out of control. Not as intense when there was loud bangs, fireworks and things like that. But nevertheless, they were still there. We did the work on the fear. And she phoned up and said, hey, Paul, I'm now able to go and test the work that we did. I felt great when we did the work. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to going to a party, and I know there'll be fireworks there. I'm just a little bit nervous. And I said, well, that's expected. Consciously, unconsciously, you're going to cross the line to find out if the great work that we've done is really great work. And he said, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to do it, and I'll let you know what happens. So the following day I get a text, Yahoo! Awesome. No problem at all. Really enjoyed my night. Loads of fireworks. Didn't feel out of control at all. So I phoned her up and said, I'm so pleased for you. So pleased. And she said, yeah, but there's more to it, Paul. There's more to it. The thing is, at work, I am so confident now because I feel in control of myself. I feel in control when I'm talking to people, asking for things. And that's affected my confidence. My confidence has affected this feeling of control. That old stuff and old feelings I had completely changed. When I go out socially now, I feel good. I don't have any fears. I just feel in control of me, not control of the whole place, but I feel in control of me. And if anything was to happen or I need to do anything, I just can do it. So you can see how dealing with one thing, the root cause, has then generalized into different areas of your life, which is awesome. So we've got, because you see, at the end of the day, it's just a process. Now, our unconscious mind uses this process for good, for trying to protect you from feeling those negative feelings that you felt once before. But then, unfortunately, to try to protect you so much, it generalizes it into different areas of your life. So all we have to do now is, instead of just working on that core, not the core belief, but the surface area belief, as it were, I'm not good enough, we need to come down a little bit more. Now, you see, going sort of off subject, but it was a subject that really got me into this a little bit. I was listening to an expert saying, every time she hears this belief of I'm not good enough, that belief surrounds fear. I go, well, fear maybe, but fear may be generated by the belief. It's just because fear is just a behavior. You have a belief, we have a behavior. And we can be a little bit frightened of it happening again, but it wasn't the fear to start off with. It's just call it another tactic, I believe, that your unconscious mind is using. You see, again, fear is protection, isn't it? And the ultimate trigger is fight, flight, and freeze. That's hardwired in your neurology. Some people say it's been in there a million years, and that's why you're here, because you have come from that strain of man and womanhood that has survived by keeping themselves safe, by being hyper alert. But any emotion, any negative emotion, may make you believe you're not good enough. Anyway, that's what I believe. I don't know who's right and wrong, because I don't think anybody knows. But it just seems to make sense to me that you don't say, fear is always the thing that generates this feeling of, or this belief of, I'm not good enough. Yes, fear could be attached to it, could be another product, but it is not the root cause. You're dealing with, I believe, when you go to a root cause, it's normally an event that's happened in your life. You reacted in a particular way with the wisdom that you had, the little wisdom, the little experience you had, and your unconscious mind did something for you. Now, it could have been frightening at the time, but it's not wrapped around fear. It's suddenly, I don't like that feeling. I don't want it to happen again. And your unconscious mind maybe then says, I'm going to make you a little bit scared too the next time, so you don't do it. And I'll give you this belief. So fear's attached, but it's not the root cause, I don't believe, of every blooming belief. I'm not good enough. Because as I said, you could be moving away from something that you're guilty of, or you feel guilty of doing something in the past, which then goes, well, if I did that in the past, I'm obviously not good enough. Or maybe you're ashamed of what you did once, and therefore that shame has given you the belief of you're not good enough. But we're missing a vital point, and I'll tell you that in a minute. So we can be upset, we can be unhappy, we can have that imposter syndrome. Now, yes, I know there could be fear to it as well, as we said, a bit of anxiety, but maybe that's just your unconscious mind hooking into this protection mode as well. So the experts, I don't believe, is right, but maybe not completely wrong, because I don't know who's right or wrong. I would never say that I'm totally right. But from my experience, I did say a but then, and I say, because but just tends to negate everything I've just said. So, and that expert could be right, and I don't think she is. Not in every blooming case. Because isn't that just what I've been talking about? Maybe that expert has taken on this belief that she believes I'm not good enough, always comes from a point of fear, and then generalized it into everything. Isn't that what we do always? As I said, generalize. We distort it. We delete it. Delete the things which don't support it. We distort the things that sort of support it and move. I don't know. But if you can go just below the surface and find what follows the sentence of I'm not good enough, that's when I believe you find the thing to work on. And when you work on that, it then generalizes into everything else on the surface. And we have a wonderful life. And it all comes down from learning. Now, let's back up a little bit. Back up to this is working for you always. I'm not good enough always works for you. What I think is there's a lovely positive intention. Your unconscious mind has this wonderful positive intention to protect you from the feelings that you felt. Maybe guilty, ashamed, upset, angry, frightened even, imposter syndrome, all that stuff. And it wants to stop you from repeating it again. Unfortunately, if we haven't learnt from that event what you did, what you could have done differently, what was your limit of experience, what do you know now that you could learn even more from that experience, then it won't change, will it? And that's what I find what happens is your unconscious mind keeps doing the same thing until it realizes what it's doing now, the behaviors, the beliefs, are no longer working. It's not getting that protection, because what it's trying to stop you from feeling, say it was guilty or ashamed. When you think about it, by not doing those things, the things that you want to do that you're being protected from, just in case you feel ashamed, guilty, upset, imposter. You actually feel that feeling of not, because you're not doing it. And it's like, here's my unconscious mind, my best friend, trying to do something for me, giving me this belief and give me this feeling to stop me feeling this feeling. In fact, the feeling I'm getting is even worse than actually doing it. And that's when your unconscious mind has the old Homer Simpson moment. And it goes, no! I can't do the voice. It realizes what it's doing. So I say that again, but a bit more clearer. It realizes what it's doing is no longer working. And when it realizes that, it has to change. Your unconscious mind has to do the thing that works. And up till now, it hasn't. It hasn't realized until now. Now, just realizing it doesn't, sometimes, but not always. Again, in my experience, we need to help it along because it needs to learn from that event, that first event, that root cause, the very specific event. And when it does, hey, things really change. Now, I want to turn this slightly on its head because there's also another generality. When we have a specific task in hand and you'll really want to get good at this particular skill, this is when that belief, I'm not good enough, really works for you, 100%, if you listen and feel it properly. When it's a fact, I want to be this good and I'm not that good. That's it. But there's a word we just missed off, isn't it? Because people who are going to succeed will say, I'm not good enough yet. And that spurs them on to practice harder, to find out other ways, to model somebody, and they get better. Because think about the very first time you did a particular skill that you're pretty good at now. You weren't good enough then to the standard you are now. But you decided. This is difficult. It's that unconscious incompetence. First of all, you don't know. And then it's conscious incompetence. Now I know I'm not that good at it. And then I start to learn and I become consciously competent. And that's when it's all a little bit judgery, a little bit, because I'm really trying to concentrate consciously on doing that skill. And then it becomes unconsciously competent, where you just do it. Now, we've all had that experience. I'm sure you have, haven't you? Had that experience where you've got better and you've said to yourself, yeah, I'm not good enough yet. And that's a positive. Because if you thought, and this is what happens sometimes, is where the next bit goes on this, when you get to think you're good enough, how motivated are you to do a bit more, to do that 1% more, to put that extra little bit of effort in, to really try to learn a little bit more? Well, you don't, do you? When you think you're good enough. And we've always said we can always get better. So we'll never, one good thing about on this particular thing, when we're at a skill level, we'll never be good enough yet, because we can always learn. And that's what happens. Well, certainly my experience, and this is what I'm putting it down to, is, have you ever, when we've had this experience, we've learned something new, it's exciting. So we really want to learn more about it. And all of a sudden our skill level starts to ramp up. We get better and better very, very quickly. Imagine a really sharp incline of our skill and time. And then we get to a point where, well, we're sort of good enough. And we stop. We plateau, don't we? And when we get to that plateau, that's the time when I'm not good enough becomes the slight negative if we don't put a yet behind it. But if we look back and go, hey, this has been a meteoric rise in my skill level, what I've learned, what I can do, I just need to sit with it a moment and learn. I just need to understand, review how far I've come, review what I've got left to learn in the next short-term goal of what do I need to learn to be able to get even better, because I'm not good enough yet, because I'm not good enough. And I'm not good enough yet. There's a different inflection in your voice, isn't there? That internal voice has a different meaning to you. It sets off different receptors and all that stuff. The synaptic gaps start firing when it goes yet, because you can see the picture of where you're going. And that's when we use that platform or that plateau to assimilate everything we know, to let go of that little bit of confusion because we've been learning so much so quickly, and then use it as a springboard to move on to the next plateau. So I look forward to plateaus because when I get there, I know I've done that meteoric rise and I'm not good enough yet. But in a moment, when I look towards the next set of goals and I review, I find out what I'm learning, I can set that new goal and my unconscious mind will help me. It'll realize there's going to be one or two things to be a little bit maybe anxious about because we're enforcing our boundaries. We're going past our comfort zone. We're starting to be that uncommon person among uncommon people. What a brilliant saying that is. I love it. Hard to do sometimes. But if you can have that in your mind, I'm going to be that uncommon person in the group of uncommon people because I'm going to succeed. Because I'm not good enough yet. And I'll never want to be good enough. Because I always want to succeed. And then get better. So, have you had that experience? That plateau? If you go back through your life, I don't know, I can go back through things that I thought I was really quite good at. And then I've just stopped doing them. But there's other things that I've been so motivated for that no plateau on earth is going to stop me doing it. Been doing hypnosis, NLP, timeline therapy, other stuff for over 20 years, which for some people is a lifetime. And it's still fresh as a daisy for me. I look forward to someone showing me something new. I look forward to trying to, as we say, deconstruct what people are doing and using those skills to find something new to share with you. So you just need to reassess where you are and understand you're not good enough and let that spur you on, spur you to learn more. That's when you get to be really good. And then you realize really good is still not good enough. And you look back at all the joy and the little pushes and the struggles you've had to get where you are, and you can feel so grateful, so good about yourself. And that's when I say it works for you so well, because you feel good that you're not good enough. I don't know, that's not what we are talking about it, but it's another way of looking at it, isn't it? But I do understand. And we're just going back, we're just going to retrack a little bit. But when you do that type of thing, on one specific area of your life where you will not accept good enough, you look forward to those plateaus. You look forward to that springboard, to learning more, putting more effort into it. I tell you what, those skills that you're learning, very specific skills you're learning, will generalize. You'll delete the excuses. You'll push away the distortion. And you will use those skills in different areas of your life. You will become more confident. You will become, your self-esteem will grow. And then your experiences in other areas of your life will get better. And that will change the way you feel. And that's when you come back to that thing where you know you're not good enough. You think, damn, life is good. I'm going to do even more. But the thing, here's a but. Here is a but. If it's not that, if it's I'm not good enough, bad feeling, you know the one. The one where you think about something. Maybe it's that imposter syndrome. You think about going to work and you think, I'm not good enough. And you get that feeling. And it's that same bloody feeling all the time, isn't it? Always in that same place. Not necessarily at the same intensity, but it's always there. You don't have to turn it on and off yourself, do you, consciously? You think of something, triggers it, boom. We have that negative feeling. And that belief, I don't believe necessarily we go out in the world going, I'm not good enough. And it comes out. I believe that's below the surface too. So it's not deeply below the surface, but it's just below the surface, affecting all your behaviors and the emotions you have, or your non-behaviors. It's like not doing something is a behavior, isn't it? Because you may be hiding, you may be not volunteering, you may be being quiet, really wanting to. But then that feeling triggers because just in case you did, even though it'd be the best thing for you. If you could do that, it would help you immensely. So, having had that, I have it quite a bit, even with all the skills. And I say that very immodestly because it's, say, 20 plus years of learning these blooming things. Unconsciously, my best friend jumps in ahead of all of that and forgets everything I've learned and says, whoa, no, Cluffy, we're not going there. You'll never be able to do it. You're not good enough. And what have I got to do? What do I do? And what could we do? Think about it now. What could we do? Well, the first thing I'd like to do, if it's affecting your life really, really, really badly, then I do think you ought to see somebody, get some help. I always say one-to-one therapy is the easy way to do it. It takes a bit of guts, kahunas, to actually press that send button on the computer if you're sending an email to a therapist to say, here's my problem. I need help. Need some help. But having done that, the snowball's going the other way now. It's going uphill faster than going downhill because you've made a commitment to yourself to change, because you're realizing that what's happening is in conflict with what you want. It doesn't feel good. And I always say to clients, the reason you're here is because if things don't feel good, something isn't working, is not right, because life should feel pretty good most of the time. Awesome most of the time. Yeah, things happen, don't they? And it's how we deal with them. Taking the responsibility to deal with things because you're good enough, because you're going to get over it, because you have a target, you have a goal. So really, what's the first thing to do? And even when you think about going to one-to-one, pressing that send button, enter button of that email, or picking up the phone and dialing those numbers, what are you doing? Think about it for a moment. What are you doing? You're acknowledging it, aren't you? And we talk about that here, acknowledging that emotion, acknowledging that conflict, acknowledging that you have an issue. You're not accepting it. And that's where I have this little, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I always say, if I accept something, I'm giving it a sense of approval. But if I acknowledge it, all I'm saying is, yeah, it's here. This is what's happening. I'm being like at a meta view, looking down and going, that's what it is. That's when it happens. This is a feeling I have. Now, when you acknowledge it, you're not pushing it away, are you? You're not trying to say, well, that's not really a problem. Because you know it is. You can't fool yourself. Even other people will be going, are you sure you're right? Yeah, fine. You know something's not working. You know you're pushing away that feeling. And the thing is, when you push away and you push against your unconscious mind that's trying to do something positive, what's your unconscious mind going to do? You must have had this experience before. You wake up in the morning and you say, you know what? I'm going to do that thing. If someone asks me that question, I will stand up and I'll answer it. Or I will ask that question that I want to ask. Or I will make that presentation. Whatever it is. You stand up consciously. That's what I'm going to do. You decide. Thing is, that to me is like pushing against your unconscious mind that's trying to protect you. And your unconscious mind goes, yeah, well, maybe not. I can push harder than you. And as soon as you're ready to speak or do that thing, it's, not really good enough for that, am I? I'm not, I could get that funny feeling. Don't want to do that. I don't want that. And the thing is, if you actually map that feeling, you'd find out it's the same feeling you're trying to avoid. It's so weird. You might not label it the same, but then when you think about the labels, they're pretty similar. But when you feel the feelings, they're the same feeling. So it's like your unconscious mind has this wonderful positive intention to protect you from the feeling by giving you the feeling that it's trying to protect you of. Hence we come to that Homer Simpson moment. But it doesn't know what to do. Your unconscious mind doesn't know what to do and that's where this help comes in. Now, acknowledging it and acknowledging that there is a positive intention, just understanding, I don't know what it is yet. I don't know what this intention is, but I know it's there. I know you're not a bad part of me. You're not, somebody used to say to me, I've got this really evil, bad part part of me that wants, no, it just doesn't feel good. And now your conscious mind is labeling it bad. Now, if you were helping a friend and you just knew that you knew what to do for them, you just keep doing it, because if they're your best friend, you keep doing it, wouldn't you? And the more you resisted, the more you would do it. To help them, that is. And they keep resisting, so you do it even harder. That's just the game that's being played out. But if we can say, well, there's a conflict here. What you're trying to do for me is no longer working, but I want you to keep doing something for me, to keep the intention. But I want to find a better way. Oh, that's different. A lot of the clients I work with suddenly just change their physiology. It's like their unconscious mind inside them gets it. Maybe I'm the first person that they've come and sat and talked to who hasn't said, this is wrong, this is bad. No, I'm acknowledging there's a positive intention and acknowledging to their unconscious mind, I don't want to change that intention, because if you want to keep my clients safe, I want you to keep them safe too. In fact, I will do anything, move heaven and earth to keep your intention. But I'll also move heaven and earth to make you find as many better ways as you can, so you can choose, so you have a choice. And when you have all those many ways of doing things differently with the same intention, you can always go back to the old one, but it doesn't work. And that's when it's like the aha moment comes along. I get it. I get it. So, what can we do about it? What could we do about it? Well, the first thing I think is, if it's not one-to-one, if it is, find a good therapist. As I said before, and I will try to remember the number next time. And if not, I'll put it try to find it for the show notes, into the episode notes. I did a podcast which says what to look for in a therapist. So they get with you. But the main thing is, when you meet them, does it feel like the right thing to do? And do they feel like the right person to be with to do it? Do you get a good feeling in the way that, do you feel confident in them and you working together? You'll get that feeling. You'll also get that feeling if it's a negative feeling. You'll know. And if you get a negative feeling, move to the next person till you get that good feeling. That's really what comes down to finding a good therapist. Make sure they've got a good pedigree, as it were. They know their stuff. They're getting the results. That's got to be a given, isn't it? You've got to be good as a therapist. You've got to be really hot. But then you've got to have that connection, that rapport, and not that made up rapport. You've got to feel good. You've got to feel you're in the right place at the right time with the right person. That's what I say to my clients. If you don't tick that box, that you're not comfortable. If I'm comfortable with Paul, I'm in the right place at the right time to make the changes. If I don't tick all those boxes, I'm going to say to Paul, thank you, but no thank you. And I am delighted when they do that, because I know I'm not the right person, and I don't want to have like that battle and then the result, which is not as good as we all want. But when you get that rapport, boom, I just get that good feeling as that guide, that therapist, that we're going to get there, and it just takes over. But anyway, that aside, it's a sort of issue. It's not a bad issue. I want to nip it in the bud though, because I do know that if we don't nip things in the bud early, they're going to generalize, get worse, get more intense. So let's deal with issues as they come along. So I think this is a really good place to just take a breather, I guess. A breather, and we can then come back to the processes of dealing with this belief of I'm not good enough, and that feeling, that negative feeling of I'm not good enough. So on part 2, we'll go deeply into all the things of I'm not good enough, including 2 processes. So I wanted to get a good foundation, get you to understand what has been happening, what is happening when you feel I'm not good enough, and also notice that it is a good thing to have. It's a protective measure from your unconscious mind. It's just maybe just no longer appropriate, and we can change that. But also there's that I'm not good enough yet. And that's a good thing to have, and look for the springboards of success when that comes along, because we can always learn more. So we can always learn more in part 2. So that's going to be following. I'm not going to leave it right to the next weekend, I don't think. I think I'll probably put this out on the Wednesday, so it gives you time to let it settle in, have a good think, and then get ready for the processes. I think that's a good thing to do, but I don't want to leave it a full week. But if I do, I've got another 5-minute quickie on the same type of thing, which I might just put in the middle. That'll just get your taste buds, your thought buds, as it were, thinking. Those synaptic gaps start firing. So when you do come to the processes of part 2, you'll have already started the process, because your mind will already be thinking. So you'll just have to wait and see. Notice what happens. Is it the part 2, or is that little 5-minute quickie that's going to get you start to thinking, get those wheels going? I hope you enjoyed this longer form of podcast. I didn't realise it was going to take that long, but I just got into it. And when you do dive this deeply, I just know we're going to get results. And I do know that you're going to get results, because that's the type of person you are. You've stayed here, you're going to get them. And you're going to build upon this and make such a difference in your life, and make such a difference in the people around you, their lives. Because that's part and parcel of this personal development. It is personal to us, but everyone else is affected by our success. And that's, I think, how it should be. I hope you agree. Anyway, do let me know if you like this form. And I'll continue it. Those who are on the newsletter list, you'll have had an email about this, and also that discount and things like that. So, on the free hypnosis. But do let me know if you like this form, the new form. I won't see which way we go, but if you like this form, do let me know. The email address is feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. That's all you have to do. Send me a little email, say, oh, it's too long. Oh, no, I wanted it all together. If you want it all together, I could always do and marry them together. And then you'd have it in one. But I think, I know with myself, I sometimes need a breather, and a lot of my journeys or my dog walks, well, they're about this length. And so they just work for me. Hey, let me know the email, and do share. Please do share this podcast and, well, basically all the podcasts, the episodes from Personal Development Unplugged. There's lots of golden nuggets, but if we can get people to really believe that they are good enough, to know they're good enough, and then produce a life that is not quite good enough yet, because they're always going to be beating their personal bests and creating a wonderful world with us, please do share it with them. I know a lot of you have, because I've noticed some of the analytics have been increasing really quite rapidly, which is awesome, which means more people are getting to hear about it, and more people are going to change the world, just as you are changing your world from the inside. Okay, so until next time, my friend, enjoy, and just be curious what's going to happen. Is it going to be that little 5-minute quickie, or is it going to be just diving in? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, until next time, my friend, bye-bye. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Personal Development Unplugged podcast. Now, the last couple of things. If you go to paulcloughonline.com, that's it, nothing else, you'll notice I've got a free hypnosis track to download. It's all about reducing your anxiety, which in this day and age, we all need it. And that's why I did it. So, lovely track from hypnosis, from me to you, to allow you to just reduce anxiety of any kind. It'll just bring it right down. And then, if you go to paulcloughonline.com/podcast, there's loads of other hypnosis tracks as well. To sign up, emails are always protected, by the way. No one gets it. I don't use it other than a little, well, it's like a newsletter of a kind. Every now and again I'll send you stuff or send you discounts and things like that. But Sign up there and you get 45 plus free hypnosis. So, wow. All this stuff for absolutely, well, just you committing to and continue to commit to changing your lives for the better. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And I send my gratitude. Have more fun than you can stand. And I'll speak to you next time. Bye-bye now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.